if he pops in. Sure.
Welcome back to another edition of the Gabagools podcast. I'm your host, Jeff. This is episode 19. With me today, long-time listener, short-time co-host here, Richie Four Bags. How we feeling today?
Well, feeling good. Were you about to say gridiron, bud?
I was going to do it, but I was like, we can't just talk fantasy on this one, so we'll keep it going with bigger.
We got to give the people a little bit more this time, Jeffrey.
Yeah. Well, it's almost fantasy season, so I'll have to stay tuned for that one too. We'll be able to do a little bit of clip action for that one.
And we just concluded our NCAA draft. There's a lot to dig into that, right?
Yeah, we'll just briefly touch on it so we don't bore everybody because nobody really cares. But like that one, that was an interesting draft just because like I'm watching certain people's strategies. I know a couple people got checked out near the end, not just the college one, but I feel like there was like 3 or 4 people that went on auto draft, which good because my biggest philosophy is like if you're not going to be on your phone for at least 4 hours, just turn on auto draft, set your queue, and go from there.
Yeah, honestly, there he is.
There he is. Awesome.
There he is.
Well, we'll stop what we're talking about with the college draft real quick, and we need to bring in Dan since we're already recording. Dan, hit me with your weather report today because I always look forward to it.
Well, first of all, what is the episode? Is this 18? Is this 19?
It is 19.
Who would have thought? First of all, we'll start there. Second
Look at
of
us.
all, look at us, right? 68 degrees in Palatine today. If you can see outside, maybe you can. You probably can't. A little cloudy today. I'm okay with it though. 68. They're saying it's only going to get up to about 72. All right, so we're pretty much at the high today. I'll tell you what. As someone who works outside, all right, yesterday a little hot and humid, didn't love it. Today, just beautiful. All right, so get outside, get the dog out there, streak through the quad if you have to. Real nice day out there for you.
Perfect. That's Daniel Skilling with our weather report.
How do you do?
And so Dan, we were talking about we just completed our C2C, so Campus to Canton, for those who don't know, fantasy draft. So it was 2 drafts we just did. So you draft your whole NFL team, and then you draft a whole college roster that you can carry over. So yeah, lots of fun stuff. We'll touch on that in the future with deeper podcasts. But since we have the 2 title contenders here. For the UFC is the best way I could put it because I know nothing about the UFC. The last person I knew was like Forrest Griffin. I mean, obviously McGregor, but that doesn't count. But so I will turn it over to my co-host here, Rich. Why don't you lead us off?
Well, I think right off the bat, and I know Dan's going to agree with me right away, is that this card was crazy. We expected to see Brian Ortega on the card. He falls ill literally hours before the fight, falls ill. I don't know if it was an injury or if it was food poisoning. I feel like that's a kind of a scapegoat answer to give. Anywho, then we have a sub for him, and then it becomes Dan Ike, who literally, normally when they have these fights and people drop out, they have a reserve ready, stuff like that. This was not the case at all. Like, this guy was literally getting a massage at noon. They gave him a buzz. They're like, yo, you down to fucking fight tonight? And he's a gamer. And I believe he was already in Vegas. That might have been the kicker to that as well. So there was like no travel time. And then he hops in. And that fight turned out to be pretty incredible with Diego Lopez winning the fight. Definitely was if that was going to 5 rounds, he was not going to win that because Dan Ike absolutely rocked his world in round 3. Nonetheless, Lopez took rounds 1 and 2. Really, really great fight in my opinion. What did you think about that one, Dan, as you were watching it?
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite fights of the night. I've seen this Diego Lopez fight a couple of times. He's had a couple fights in the UFC. A couple of them have been on short notice too. He's a dog, man. He goes in there. You call him up on a couple of weeks. I think he was fighting on short notice or whatever. But
he was
for Ige to fight on a couple hours notice. I mean, that is about as freaking baller as it gets, dude. Like you said,
it is impressive. From someone that doesn't. Yeah, from someone who doesn't watch it all, that's impressive. Just to come but I mean, that's why you train though. Like that's the whole point is like to get your name out there. You have to kind of go and be ready on these notices. I mean, it sucks because some of these fighters train for what would you say 6 weeks, 8 weeks before the fight?
Oh, at minimum. I mean, it's normally a 12-week camp, so 3 months. And so here's the thing too about this is that Diego Lopez thinking he's fighting Brian Ortega at 145. So he weighs in at 145, and then they're like, no, that we're gonna scratch him. We need you at 155. So then the next day he weighs in at 155, and then the whole Dan Ike situation happens. They're like, well, Dan's not making 155. Can you just do 165? And Diego Lopez is like, fuck it, I don't give a shit. And if you watch that fight, you see Diego Lopez looks like 145 pounds, and Dan Ike looks like 170 pounds. They're like literally twice his size. But so they're both gamers. They both had like a lot, honestly, to gain from it, and not much to lose because of how willing they both were. So that fight, and just in general, was absolutely amazing. And then kind of pushing forward, what were some other? What's another one that caught your eye that wasn't the main event, Dan? The main event we'll get to, but whew.
Well, obviously, I mean, yeah. So that one was good. The Bueno Silva Macy fight was actually interesting because of just the way it ended, right? I mean, you don't see those gouges. I mean, you want to talk about that was some slicing and dicing. Oh my good Lord. I mean, that was they showed it in slow motion, and you could see after she gets her at the right angle, you just see the blood almost instantly just start leaking out, and you're just like, she gets up, you see that, and I mean, she wanted to keep going. She's a freaking dog too, but of course, I mean, if she got hit again there, I mean, who knows? I mean, you would have been
All
seeing.
right, can I give my 2 cents on that situation? So if you watch the fight, she literally gets busted open by the elbow, and she stays down and says, "Come to me." Now, I personally think she was literally ready to throw in the towel at that point. But what it was is when the crowd saw the actual cut and then they reacted to it, is when she all of a sudden flipped her tune like, let's go, let's go. It's like, well, actually, when she busted you open and said, get up, you stayed on the canvas and said, come to me. So you were kind of ready to give it up until so it was kind of a weird situation. I don't think she wanted to continue. But nonetheless, that elbow was absolutely devastating. And if you see that cut is one of the nastiest down to the bone cuts above the eyebrow that I think I've ever seen.
No, it was nasty. I mean, that thing was deep. There's a reason that the ref said you're not going to continue. She said she wanted to, but I mean, when you got something like that, I mean, let's put it this way: your body's only got so much blood in it, right? I mean, and that's one of those cuts where she was leaking, man.
Jeffrey, she was leaking on the canvas just nonstop. She couldn't continue. Like the blood was all in her eye. If she were to fight, she was going to be like this with one eye closed and just going at it. So that I think that was an incredible fight. Then we have Ian Gary against MVP. That was absolutely a great fight. I didn't actually know that. So they were kind of beefing in that presser, like they had actual problems. Then I saw a video of them actually Ian was introducing his son to MVP like hours before the fight, and they were being all cordial. And I think it just kind of shows you, or like goes to show that like a lot of this is showmanship when they're doing those pressers. It's all for the views and trying to just bring notoriety to their own name, when really, in actuality, they're all kind of friends behind the scenes.
Getting into that fight, because that was obviously the one that I think that it kicked off the main card, but that one,
Yes, it did.
Gary, as far as a fighter, very skilled. I mean, very, very elite. I mean, he's right up there. I don't know if you want to call him elite just yet, but his striking is way up there. Still slightly untested. I mean, he's fought the last couple of guys he's fought have been pretty solid. He's definitely been looking good. This fight, I was expecting a little bit more, to be honest with you. Mainly, like you said, when I mean, they're talking some smack in there, and MVP's just got that odd style. I don't know if you know much about Bellator, but I haven't seen a lot of Bellator, and I didn't know much about him. I saw MVP's debut a few months ago when he beat, I forget who he fought, but that style where he's jumping in and out, he's bouncing around. It's you can't
that karate point style, where he's bouncing in, he closes the distance so fast, and he comes in like I think they described it as like the car crash. It's like when he comes in for the car crash, you got to be ready to counter for him, but he closes that distance so quickly. And I know they talked about like how Ian thought he had an undoubtable speed advantage, just given the age gap. Absolutely not, bro. He was much slower than MVP. MVP is very quick. He's also 37, by the way, because he spent
Yeah,
quite a bit of time in Bellator.
right.
They were calling for his move to UFC like years ago. But overall, a little bit disappointing for Ian. I think he didn't display like his whole show skill of or showcase of skills during that fight. He seemed a little bit tentative, but what I think it is anybody that fights MVP with that weird style, you're just
Yeah.
afraid to get knocked out.
Yeah, he's got that funky dives in at you, gets out. It's so hard to probably replicate that in practice. So I think what they
Right.
tried to do, you could see because Gary's a striker. He's not that he doesn't have a ground game, but that's what he was really doing against MVP in the majority of this fight. He wasn't really able to get a lot of strikes off against him. Let's face it, I think MVP won the striking advantage, but Gary
Yes.
was able to take
Easily.
him to the ground multiple times and hold him down, and that's what'll win you fights every now and then. So he did what he had to do to win. But as far as from him, I think there was definitely more of a lackluster performance. There was definitely more to be had there. My palate wasn't cleansed enough from the first one, if I'm being honest.
well, well, I
You
think
might
your
want to try it
palate
next
probably
time.
got cleansed with that main event, right? So now
Yeah,
let's talk about the stare down. The 2.5 minute stare down was the most intense thing that I had ever seen in my life. Like my head butterflies watching them stare at each other. Like it was literally prehistoric. Like civilization wasn't even formed yet. Just two men staring each other down. Somebody's got to kill somebody from their gods, right? Their gods obviously have their back. And my God, I hate to say it, but Yuri was just he wasn't ready. Nobody's ready for this man, Pereira. Nobody is ready. Because what Pereira did, like the first fight between them, was actually much more convincing to where it
yeah.
was like, all right, this is a really good clash. This one, you can see that he was intimidated. He wasn't quicker. Pereira was so calm and relaxed. And then at the end of that first, when he hit his patented left hook and dropped him, I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. And then start of round two begins, and I don't even know if he throws a punch or if he just feints his leg kick, and then he follows it with that left high kick, and then just the beginning of the end. Let's talk about how this man has 12 fights in the UFC, and the last 6 have been for titles, and he's lost once in 2 different divisions. And he should go up to heavyweight, in my opinion. Go rock them motherfuckers. Go fuck up Tom Aspinall and all them guys.
Dude, I mean, and I think they mentioned that after his last fight, and then of course Joe's getting in there and he's asking him again. So, Alex, what do we think of moving up to heavyweight? Huh? And I mean, he's such an interesting guy. He comes over here, runs through a couple guys in middleweight, takes the belt from Izzy, then moves up, is doing things. And Izzy tried to move up, right? He fought Jan,
Yes,
Polish Power, and
got whooped.
Jan just laid on him for a couple rounds, and he just couldn't because Izzy didn't want to put the weight on. Pereira is just a different animal, man. I mean, he does his homework, gets down to the weight, and then he rehydrates and he goes up big time in the weight, and he's just it's
He was
crazy.
220, and he was 220 last night for sure.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
And like the thing is like, what is he going to be at heavyweight? Because heavyweight, I was looking it up, goes up to 265 for a title fight. You can go up to 266, but a lot of guys at heavyweight don't go all the way up there, right? Like I
Yep.
was looking it up. Somebody was at like 245, 247 or something like that. So you don't have to go. You just can't go above 265 for a title fight. What is he going to get up to, man? He is just like he's another animal. We haven't seen somebody like this. I mean, it's unbelievable. He's like you said. What I saw 9 trips inside the octagon. He's captured the championship at middleweight and light heavyweight. I mean, it what he's doing in this fight. I mean, it was basically one round, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
13 seconds into the second round. After, like you said, clips him with that left hook at literally right at the bell. You knew right then and there, like, okay, this is it. Yuri's done.
And
And
he had no idea where he was too. Yeah, like Yuri had
Yuri's
no
a hell of
idea.
a
He
fighter
wanted this.
too. Yuri's no slouch, but he's made guys like him and Jamal Hill. He's a great fighter too. He's made a couple of these guys look like they're anywhere near this guy's class, which is completely terrifying. I mean, if he goes up to heavyweight and he goes after like an Aspinall, I'm a huge fan of Gan, but he didn't look great against Jones a couple fights ago. So
I was just about to pose that question. Now, do you guys think he could take out Jones or no?
Jones has this fucking thing where he just will not give up fighting. God damn it, who is the heavyweight? The old heavyweight. Damn it.
Because looking back at his last fights, he had Gain, he had Reyes, Santos,
Stipe,
Smith.
I think it's Stipe. Yeah, Stipe. He will not give up trying to fight Stipe
Oh,
again.
that's right.
And nobody wants to see this fight. Stipe's old. John Jones is old. We want somebody young to fight John Jones, but John Jones literally will not give up fighting Stipe because he's pulling this whole, well, he's paid his dues and he deserves to make this money. It's like, bro, that pay-per-view probably won't sell too well. Like, honestly, if it was Pereira versus John Jones,
Well, that's good. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the fight of all fights to make. I mean, if let's face
That's
it, if McGregor could beef up to heavyweight, and if we could do McGregor Pereira, that would be the biggest thing I think ever. That would be like that movie Godzilla versus like King Kong or whatever came out a couple
yeah.
years ago. I mean, that's what that stare down was between Yuri and Pereira last night. I was like, oh my good lord, we got two titans here. I mean,
yes.
these if I was in a dark alley, those are the two people I would not want to see. I mean, they're terrifying. One guy's a freaking samurai. He thinks of himself as a samurai. He was meditating in a room, didn't eat anything for like 3 days.
Yes, I saw that.
Who the fuck does that? These are not normal people. Okay.
Or water. There's no water either. Like the man just went straight cold turkey. It was like
Who did that? Was that Pereira or was that Yuri?
that was Yuri.
Oh, no. Well, maybe you should have eaten something, then you maybe would have won that fight. Then.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
right. It's a little
So
malnourished.
calories, yeah.
The only time it's acceptable not to eat anything is when you know you're going on like a long drinking bender and just gotta keep it going, just nothing but the liquid diet.
Done that a few times.
Yeah.
2, 3. So you mentioned McGregor. I don't even think that would be a good fight, and this is just coming from somebody who is just like a very distant watcher. I don't think that would be good because I think McGregor doesn't have it anymore where he could fight a Pereira, someone that's like
Oh
moving.
no.
That would yeah.
For
It would
being
be good for,
honest,
like,
no.
name,
Yeah.
if like the name value, but I think the overall fight would just be underwhelming, and then that would be the end of McGregor. I also don't think Dana would allow that.
Probably not. Well, I mean, we're at the very tail end of McGregor here. And
Right.
honestly, if he were to lose to Chandler last night, if they had actually fought, because he was out due to toe injury, I believe.
Yeah.
If he were to lose last night, that's
He's
it.
done.
Like we're done with him. So I
Does
think
he come
Dana's
back,
also
though?
kind of being a little tentative about it, but also DC made a good point. Daniel Cormier made a good point last night. He's like, we haven't seen this type of like just person in the UFC since McGregor, speaking about Pereira and just like what he's done in the rise to fame. And also Pereira's not talking shit. So that's like a different beast to where like you're getting all this attention without having to run your mouth, which is almost unheard of in like combat fighting. You need that element to sell fights, that Mayweather bullshit. Yeah, fuck the Mayweathers. Like Pereira don't need that. He just needs his fucking God and his tribe, and he's coming at your ass.
There you go. There you have it. Any closing arguments or anything crazy? Anything else left on the card that you want to mention before we jump?
Nothing really. I mean,
hopefully we see McGregor soon, right? Hopefully he heals up, and then they like bump him and Chandler to like 304, 305. That would be nice because I don't think 304 is very good right now card wise. Because you know how they're kind of building them last minute. It seems like lately. So hopefully we see McGregor back soon. Outside of that, there's not too much to look forward to. Besides, Pereira said he wants to fight again soon. So, and honestly, the guy's not taking damage in his fights.
Right. You can literally go out there tomorrow and probably fight.
Yeah. He's become must see TV. Pereira is unbelievable. I mean, whoever he fights next, I mean, it's as people would say for McGregor, it's red panty night. Okay, I don't know if Pereira's Brazilian. Maybe it's going to be green and yellow. I don't know. That's what their flag is or whatever. But maybe that's what we'll call it. And everyone's talking about McGregor. I want to see Chandler fight too because he's an exciting guy. Ever since he's come over,
Yes, he is.
every fight he's been in has been exciting. He's lost a few, but they're all exciting fights. He's out there willing to swing with them. So I'm excited to see
Another guy
him.
that was hiding in Bellator for fucking years.
Yeah.
waiting for him to come over as well. Yeah.
So
All right, moving into a topic that I kind of know a little bit about when it comes to the NBA. Lots of news this week. So we obviously we had the NBA draft. We'll jump in that, but let's hit on those trades. So first things first, late off the week, we had the Bridges trade to the Knicks, where the Nets
Villanova
sent.
Knicks, baby.
I love it. Honestly, it's hard not to like them because of it. Like, I'm not a Nova fan by any means, but like seeing a group of guys come in and be on the same team like
They
that,
like love each other genuinely.
you
I
do.
think that's the
Like,
thing. Yeah.
like they're not unlikable guys, like when you look at it, it's like Brunson, awesome.
yeah.
Bridges, he's always been that like underrated dog that just never misses a game. You have Josh Hart, who just is hilarious on and off the court. Some of his expressions just make me laugh. And then you have the white boy. I can't think of DiVincenzo,
Dante.
right?
Yep.
Dante. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they gave up their unprotected first round picks in 25, 27, 29, 31,
Cares.
along with a protected 28, 25 first round pick to from the Bucks and a first round swap as well with Bojan too. So like they gave up a lot for Bridges, and I've had a couple people ask me like, what do you think if that is that like fair value? Is he actually worth 5 first round picks? And when I've explained it to a couple people too, I've said that, it's one of those things where you have the continuity within the team. Like they played together, they like each other. I think that could put them over over the hump, which it all depends. But let me hear what you guys have to say.
So we have to talk about like the value of first round picks in the NBA because it's going to be confusing if you don't understand, because you're going to see Mikal Bridges go for 4 first round picks and you're going to be like, what the fuck? I don't understand. And then you see KD go for like 8 first round picks. So here's the deal, right? Like you only get 5 players that get on that fucking court. You only get 5 players, and for the most part, like those picks, if you're not a top 10, or even a top 5, the likelihood of you washing out, I don't want to put a percentage on it because that would be rude, but it's very high. And thus, it makes those first round picks very devalued. So that is why, like, the Suns they were very willing to give up, like, their first round picks for the next 10 years to get KD. And then the same thing for, like, I think the Nets to get Kyrie Irving, or was it James Harden or KD? I can't remember exactly how they acquired all of them, but they had to give up a lot of picks as well. So if the first round pick thing is interesting because they don't mean too much. You have to hit on the player. And the likelihood of you hitting on a big time player outside of the top 10, top 15 is very small. So, thus, within the trade to get Mikal Bridges, who literally I liked how Josh Hart like sent a tweet. It was like, just blink and we'll come save you. Then what was it, like the next week or the week after that they go and trade for him? But in terms of just like cohesion and being on those championship teams in college, it's a no-brainer. So, but here's the thing now is that when we have Tibbs being the coach, how hard is Tibbs gonna be riding these guys?
Oh, hard. Very
we
hard.
know it, right? Just from the Bulls years, we know that as Chicago.
Yeah, because I mean, even he was playing Josh Hart and Dante. That like they were all playing like 40 minutes in the playoffs. Granted, you were needed in that point because I think Brunson near the end was out, but like still, you need, But what does that mean for like Julius Randle too? Dan, what do you think about that?
Well, I was just going to say with the Bridges, I almost feel like, I see what we're saying with the first picks. My only counter to that would be what has Bridges done so far in the NBA? I mean, has he been that good of a player to give up that many first round picks? I think that would be the only thing. But I do like the ability to have all those guys play together. And, to have chemistry is definitely a thing. I think if you looked at the Bulls this year, you could probably say that there was no chemistry. And you could see how having chemistry is definitely going to provide you with a better product on the court. So I buy into that. I just, I hope, for his sake, he's going to be, I know he's a good player. I like the player. I'd probably like to see him do a little bit more as a Knick to make that trade really look good. And then the Knicks have a really good team, so they're trying to win now. They're pushing their chips in. So I like that move from that perspective as well.
I think the big thing with him is his longevity. Like he played 82 games this year, and I think that's exactly what they want. But you also have to remember the Brooklyn Nets are not good. Phoenix, when he was there, was okay. They weren't very good. So you got to play the devil's advocate on like, oh, what has he done for me recently? He was doing everything he could. It's just he was on some shitty ass teams too.
Sure.
Julius Randle doesn't get re-signed.
Yeah,
He's in
he's
year
got to be
he's in
gone.
year he's in year 10. He's going to want more money than the Knicks are going to want to give him. He also has made like one All-Star game in those 10 years, maybe two at best. Thus, I don't think they're going to see the value in paying out that type of profit to him.
Yeah, I also think you know where he's going to end up too, right? It's either going to be Dallas or Chicago. The reason I'm saying Chicago is
Oh,
because
jeez.
the Bulls are in a fucking middle of nowhere land with like their way that they're running that organization. They can't move
We
Levine, so
just
they have to.
just re-signed Patrick Williams for 5 for 90 this morning.
Yeah, what has he done for us lately? We were
Nothing.
talking about this on the last week's pod too, about how AK was supposed to be this like savior to the Bulls. I bought into it heavily.
I
I
did.
was like, I'm actually going to start. Oh, we bring in Billy Donovan. You
Yeah.
know, one of those situations. I mean, we could rant for the Bulls. I'm for hours. Let's not do that because it's just a waste of our time and breath. But you know, it's just like those are that Randall's going to be one of those signings that they make because they're going to say, "Oh, we lost DeMar DeRozan, but here's Julius Randle because he did this." Same
Yeah.
bullshit they do with the White Sox too.
And then kind of
Um,
looking forward to the draft. I personally, and I know I told you this via text, I think this might go down as one of the worst draft classes since Andre Bargnani in '06. Um, I honestly, to be quite honest, outside of Reed Shepard and a couple other players, I have absolutely no idea. We have a lot of foreign players coming out this year, thus, like their popularity is very limited. I'm willing to bet most of the NBA people are not super familiar with, Alex Starr and Zachary
Yeah.
Racer. Can't even tell you. So you know what I'm saying? So, but I think the biggest thing from this draft is going to be one person, right? It's going to be one person.
right here, if you see my screen,
Probably didn't even. He wasn't gonna. Let's be honest. Talent wise, he's an undraftable player. He's an undraftable player. He is not worth a draft pick. But we also know the GM was not going to let that happen.
GM.
He wasn't going to let that happen. If you look at him getting drafted, Bronny's just sitting there like, fuck. Like I gotta do this now, like I gotta make my name outside of my dad. And he probably already knows, like internally, he shouldn't have gotten drafted in the second round. He's not worth that talent. Which I wonder how that makes him feel. Does that put a chip on his shoulder? Does he think the league's gonna hate him when he comes in? Which they will.
yeah,
They're
100%.
gonna play his ass hard. Everybody's gonna play his ass hard. But I think that's kind of what the 2024 draft begins and ends with Bronny James. My
It
opinion.
is, and you know, I do actually feel bad for him specifically, just because of the fact that he wants to just be Bronny James. He doesn't want to
I
be
know,
this,
yeah.
and that's what sucks because like I all week and I've watched ESPN and all they talked about was how Bronny James is this, and then they one of whoever that one guy. There's like an announcer or some sort of like media person who basically sat there and just trashed the Lakers and like LeBron and Bronny and said that like he wouldn't have gotten drafted if it wasn't for his dad. But it's like you could actually correlate. Someone did it. They went through every single either GM, coach, player that had their dad come in. I mean, look at Ken Griffey Jr. Yes, that's an elite talent, but like the
It's a
Steinbrenners,
number one
like
pick.
you know yeah, exactly, like you just have like so many different like scenarios in which like a father son duo was in sports, and it's like, okay, well, you have to allow it. Like, yeah, people are going to have it happen, but they have to make their name for themselves. If it flops, they flop. It's because people hate LeBron so much that and that's the thing too. It's like once he's gone, it's like, what do we, I mean, yeah, we have Anthony Edwards and some other future players, but you appreciate some of these guys. People hated Tom Brady. I was one of them.
Oh
He
yeah.
went to the back.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, let me jump on board because I want to appreciate the greatness watching somebody like win championships.
Scroll up a little bit. Because
I've appreciated the greatness for a while, but I think it's also time for Le GM, as Richie Four Bags put it, to get the hell out of here. I mean, hey, the guy's been great. He's the best player I've ever seen play, and I mean, come on now. What else can you say about the guy? He's got some of this greatest all-time career stats. The guy could do everything. I
Undoubtable.
mean, if you're going to build a prototypical player to play in the NBA, whether it's back then or now, I mean that's pretty much what you'd want. I mean, he could guard anybody he needs to pretty much in the NBA. He's big enough to do that. He's fast enough to run you. I mean, he could do everything, right? We've seen it for 20 years. So,
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
let me rip this real quick. So we got at 9, we got Zach Edey going to Memphis to play with Ja Morant. That's absolutely going to be a really nice pairing. Ja needs that because I think Steven Adams is still there, but he's aging. So I think that's going to end up being a really great pick. And then if you're looking down to the San Antonio Spurs, Rob Dillingham, that pick actually went to the Timberwolves. So now Rob Dillingham is going to be paired with Anthony Edwards. That's going to be an incredible pairing. And the Spurs, or the Atlanta Hawks, actually just traded away, also speaking of trades, DeJounte Murray to the Pelicans, he's a really great player. He just hasn't had the chance, I think, working alongside with Trae Young to really show out like he did when he was with the Spurs. So I think that now, putting him on the Pelicans and assuming Zion, hopefully drops away and keeps being. He had a really good end of the year last year athletically, but he's still very heavy. So those are kind of some interesting moves that I think have happened around the draft. And then I know that guy that the Bulls picked at 11 apparently is a hometown guy from Hinsdale.
Yes.
Haven't seen him play, but
Yeah, he was a G leaguer. It's not really much to. It's
okay.
kind of nothing to see here. I was honestly a little upset we didn't take Dalton Connect.
Dalton.
Yeah, because that would have been a perfect guy. We would have wasted his talent. So I'm happy he's actually on the Lakers. But that being said, he was probably at that point the best player. Some people really were high on him, though. A lot of the mock drafts said he was going like 4 or 5. I don't think he was that type of talent. I mean, I don't know. I just see like another one of those hometown guys that the Bulls draft, and then he goes to like the Miami Heat and blows up, that type of situation.
Extras.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, Chestnut. Thank you. You got the name for me on that one.
Sorry. Kendrick Nunn, actually. He was another one.
One of the biggest ones was Terrence Shannon Jr., too, from Illinois, going to Minnesota to play with Anthony Edwards as well. I think that's going to be a dirty.
Did they get both players, or was that part of their trade to get Rob Dillingham?
I'll have to look. Let's see here. Yeah, they got him. We'll fact check that later, but yeah.
Yep.
Either way, I think if wherever he goes, I think he's going to be a stud, one of those late ones. But we have to. I don't know if you guys saw this one. So obviously, Kyle Filipowski from Duke, right? Have you seen the headlines about him recently?
No.
That apparently his
going undrafted.
He was supposed to go undrafted, but the funny part is, so he got signed to Utah. Well, as you know, in Utah, there's a lot of Mormon, population there. So the funny thing about him is that apparently he's been groomed by his fiance, who is 26, when he was like 18, roughly, give or take, for like years. So that's been like the biggest.
Hey, that's equality. That's equity right there.
The whole draft, you would think there's like some big stars or something, with Bronny James. No, people are talking about Kyle Filipowski. I'm saying his name wrong at this point. But the fact that he was basically groomed by his fiance, and like we looked up pictures of her the other day, and her eyes are like cross-eyed, like just full on, like wild. Like you have to look it up. Like I can't even make it up for you guys. But yeah, this Tyler Kolek too, out of Marquette. Another funny thing about him, apparently he can't read. And that was like, I guess he tested the lowest in NBA history, or like NBA draft history, for like his like measurables because of it.
Can't read, huh?
Jesus. Which goes to Marquette. Like he went to Marquette. So I was like, how is that possible? So, money.
It's come on now. Like none of those guys go to. We know this is none of those guys have ever went to college for the last 40 years or class. Like, come on, like
D-Rose,
they just get pushed through.
D-Rose
didn't even take his SAT. Like the fuck.
That guy can't fucking read. I know all the D-Rose lovers will still come for my head on that one, but I'm sorry, but anybody who tells me he needs to walk across his son's graduation or whatever,
that was dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still waiting on the Bulls to bring him back.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
I kind of am too. Give him that minimum. Let's have a nice, but like, let's get a team together first. That way, he's like coming off the bench and he's like, a good spark. The team's already good. I feel like that would be a good way for him to ride it out. But I don't know.
They'll never do it. At this point
No.
in his career, it's done. But just briefly touching on Mattis too, some of his like intangibles. The Bulls weren't expecting him to be around, and they pretty much said that he's versatile, fits with like the young core. So I'm guessing they're talking about Io and Kobe White.
Sure.
And then if you look, he could be decent as like just a spot up shooter for them too. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening for him. Moving into actually anything else from the NBA that you guys, I know Klay Thompson's on his way out, so
we're gonna call that now. Lakers.
Yeah,
Done
100%.
deal. Yeah. There's
100%.
I know the other one was like Mavs, and it was like, nah, they're not gonna take. They don't want him. It's gonna be Lakers.
That's a hot
Either
take.
way. I think it's an awful.
And then Paul George is gonna go to the Warriors.
Ooh, that would be a good one.
He declined. He declined. No, he declined yesterday.
Yeah,
he declined his option. So
I think he goes to the Sixers. I really do. I think that's because they have the point guard in place. They have Embiid that'll play probably 60 games, and then you got Paul George that'll have. I think that'll play better, and it's just so funny to see the rise and fall of Kawhi Leonard. Like, literally went to Toronto, and I think he didn't. Isn't there like an interview out that he like the coach came out and said he's like, I'm giving my all this one, gonna win a championship, get paid, and I'm out of here. Pretty much. I think
really?
Yeah, I saw
that's
that.
Always kind of been his thing with his load management bullshit.
He got to love that,
a league wide. That's a league wide issue. I don't even want to get into. They're fucking pussies, but
yeah,
they make the biggest contracts in sports, and then they fucking talk about load management.
Which is funny because then you compare it to the other. We're going to transition into the NHL. How they just don't get paid at all. You know, their biggest contracts are like $13 million a year. That's
hurts, yeah.
$70 million less than a mid NBA player is making, which is insane to me. But we have to give the flowers out to the Florida Panthers. They won their first Stanley Cup ever, so we'll give them their round of applause here, boys. Then we do have Connor McDavid, who won the Conn Smythe, and for those non-hockey players out here and non-hockey followers, Conn Smythe is like the MVP of the Stanley Cup, or this like the playoffs in general. As I've mentioned on the podcast in the past couple of weeks, McDavid just put up astronomical numbers this whole postseason, and he won the Conn Smythe but lost the Stanley Cup. This hasn't happened since I think like the Ducks back like years, maybe 20 years ago. We're going on close to it. But yeah, they presented him with the award and he didn't come out on the ice.
Didn't accept it. I loved it.
Yeah, like you have to be petty like that.
Well, here's the thing. If you go out there and accept it, and they were talking about this like on Big Cat was talking about this on his pod. It's like how much of a dick you look like to your teammates. Yep. You know? Go out there and say, yeah, it was all me. It was all me. We lost, but it was all me. They clearly agree with me. Like, don't do that. And he knows better than to do that shit. So, like, I don't think there was any disrespect towards. I think it's actually rude as shit to put him on the spot and have him do that.
So, what do we think? Are they just going to email it to him then, or are they just going to like send it to him by Pony Express?
They probably gave it to him
like right?
by pigeon.
He still won it. I mean, what's the big deal? Just going up there, like, yeah, we lost, but the team couldn't score more than one goal. Didn't they lose 2-1?
Yeah, 2-1.
Yeah, that was. Oh my gosh, that game 7 was amazing.
Edmonton had a few games where they spanked the Panthers. So you know what? I mean, they want the guy. That's interesting to win the MVP on the losing team. That is interesting.
It's a cool little little hockey thing too. It's like that's like something you didn't think would happen, but it does. Right. Could you imagine somebody like in the NBA doing that? We'd never hear the end of it. Like, it'd be like the storylines about Jason Tatum, like just cry. Like everybody's trying to build the whole thing with Jaylen Brown too. Like just the back and forth about.
I am so sick of Jason Tatum. We're not going back, but he's not Kobe.
No.
No matter how hard you try, you're not Kobe, Jason Tatum. All right.
Somebody who is Kobe. Just kidding. We're gonna move into the other award that was given out was Connor Bedard, our hometown homie, won the Calder Rookie of the Year. Not a surprise there. There was a couple other players that could have easily won it, but it was Bedard's trophy to win. So
Yes.
hopefully we keep it going. But moving into the NHL draft, obviously the Hawks didn't get
I
the
was
one
gonna
pick.
say, Jeffrey, give me the piece on this guy. Yeah.
Okay,
What do we
so
got?
the guy they got, so we're gonna call him Artie. So it's gonna be Artie Party. That's what you're gonna see on the Blackhawks socials for every time he scores. So it's
Yep.
a defenseman, played out of Michigan State. He's 18 years old. This guy is a mammoth. He stands 6'2" at 18 years old. We're talking a future cornerstone, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook level player. Very hard to compare. And I think I said this before too, that you can't compare him to Duncan Keith just because they went to Michigan State together. I hate comparisons like that. Not the same size, nothing like that. But he's just an animal. So he was scoring under a point per game in college, which is a different game too altogether. You see a lot of different talented players go to college, they stay there a couple years and then make that jump up to the NHL after they get their contract. But I think he actually might be one of those guys that just joins the team immediately. Some of his biggest strengths are like I said, his physicality. He's just very mature for his age, very athletic, which makes him quick, agile on the skating, which is huge because you need that in your top two defenders. Because if you want to win in the NHL these days, is you have to be fast. It's as generic as it is. The game has moved on so quickly, even from those 2010, 2013, 2015 Hawk teams. The reasons that they didn't continue that success after a lot of those players left, not only was the talent not there, but the speed. That's why they got boat raced against Nashville in, I think, 2017. The Blues kicked their ass in 2016. So back to Artie here. He's he's willing to jump on the offensive part of the ice too. He'll join a rush, be very confident just shooting the puck. And he's also a playmaker, so he'll get the assists. And he also led, I think, his team, and he won major accomplishments in college, being a Big Ten player of the year, freshman player of the year, defensive player of the year, and then he also was a candidate for the Hobey Baker, which is basically the MVP of the college ranks.
So we're in good hands, Jeffrey?
I would say we're in good hands with that pick. That being said, we did make two other trades. I'm just going to touch on those players really quickly. We did get a center from the USHL, which we love. Davidson loves drafting these guys. Basically, he just drafts a bunch of skaters, trying to hit on it. But yeah, we moved up a couple spots in this one before the draft started. But Saka Bosvert, he's going to continue his development. He plays at North Dakota, which is one of my favorite hockey teams for college. He's 6'2", so he's got some size. We need it up the middle. He should help it. He did score pretty well. He scored 36 goals, and it was in 61 games, which not bad. But not only that, we did trade up into the back end of the first with Carolina and took pick 27, Marek Vanacker. These names are going to be really funny in a couple of years if I'm telling them completely wrong.
Yeah.
I like the aggressiveness behind Davidson trading up for these guys. Because he got a winger, he could probably jump on the ice with the Hawks very soon, maybe 2 years. That being said, I think they could have gotten a lot more talent, but a couple of these guys had some character issues, some off-ice issues that the Hawks were like, nope, we're not touching that with a couple of these picks. But if you ever watch any of Vanacker's highlights, they're actually pretty impressive. He's just a massive dude out there as well. So got some. He's 6 foot, but looks bigger, I should say. Shoots lefty, and can put the puck in the net. That's kind of what the Hawks need. They don't really have a whole lot out there.
Did we lose the commish again?
We did.
Twice in one session, man. We got to get him some better network or something.
Seriously, what kind of Wi-Fi's are you running on here, bud? Come outside.
Look at this fucking guy, dude. Oh.
Peace.
I'm back.
Just heard him.
Can you hear me?
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, right.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, don't make us talk about the Cubs right now, man. Come on.
Yeah, there's really nothing to say about them.
There's not. I'd rather talk about the Orioles.
Yeah. I was just gonna. I had a little nickname for this Artie guy. I wanted to say it with Jeff right when he was done talking about all these draft picks or whatever. But
What you got?
so all right, I'll break it out for you. It's if this guy likes cheese, it's Havarti Artie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
pretty good, right?
Yeah.
He said,
I saw you writing something down. That was off the top of the dome, eh?
Right off the top, right off the rip.
Am I back finally?
All right, Jeffrey.
I hear the dogs barking.
Yeah, so my little boy Kobe.
Kobayashi.
Yes, sir. Yeah, hot dog eater. Did you see that? They're gonna like battle Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut. Side note, they're gonna be battling on Netflix in like a 1v1 food competition.
No, but I did hear something about Chestnut not wanting to compete or whatever because he wants to do some vegan hot dog or whatever. Like what?
So what it was, he signed a deal with like a vegan company and got the bag. And this doesn't break. He has no contract with Nathan's Hot Dogs whatsoever. But they basically were like, we don't want you anymore because you're not representing us. You're representing the vegetarian community. And he's like, what the fuck? I'm just trying to get trying to get the bag here. And so then Netflix went ahead and then I think it's going to be in July next month. I don't know what they're going to eat, but they're going to do a 1v1. And I don't know. It's just like peak America for you, right?
Hell
Hopefully
yeah,
it's on. Actually, you know what? Because every year it's on the 4th of July, correct? Maybe
so.
That's what it'll be.
Well, I'll tell you, if they're going to be doing that, they're going to be taking a lot of views from the Nathans.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me now? All right. Yeah.
You back?
You know what's funny is I could hear you guys talking too the entire time, but I lost it. I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi on a
Did
Sunday,
you hear my nickname for Artie?
No, I lost that part.
Check this out, dude. Havarti Artie.
Havarti Artie. I do like cheese, so I dig it.
Who doesn't like
big
cheese,
picture?
right?
Yeah, big picture to wrap up the NHL draft for the Hawks. A lot of skepticism just with like what they're going to do this offseason. They need to go out and sign some people, put them around Bedard. But we'll see. Hard to judge any of the draft picks because you never know. They could be good. So that being said, though, I like the defenseman we drafted. Also, I did hear the talk about Joey Chestnut. How can you take the greatest American out of a competition like that? Like literally, when you think of like the top Americans of all time, he is
God.
it. Not the ones who serve in the war, not the ones who
Fuck those guys.
Build monuments. No, we're talking about a guy who eats hot dogs.
He's on the Mount Rushmore of Americans. Okay, that's what he is. He's been around for a few years too. If you didn't know,
like him, Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, Dennis Rodman's a good one too.
Charlie Sheen.
Winning.
Tiger blood right there. Yeah, but going into I heard you guys wanting to talk about the Cubs. I mean, that's just another team. Can we talk about Justin Steele being the only one who looks like
Wake the fuck up! Wake the fuck up! That was a good video yesterday. Somebody got to do it. And I like that the commentator was like, this isn't a one-day thing. This is this has been built up over time for this absolute abomination that we've like performed the last better part of a month? Question mark?
2 months.
Better part of it, yeah, because it's been kind of funny because there was a statistic that because everybody rags on the White Sox for being as bad because I mean me included, I rag on them all the time. But like they have the similar record. The Cubs have a similar record over the last
the best period now
games, and I was like, that's hilarious. Just watching Chicago sports just go in a little turd. I mean, if all things being said, if we had to sacrifice the Cubs for like the Bears to be good, I would be okay with.
I'm fine with it.
I need Caleb to be good. I really need not because of fantasy purposes, but I just
boys. He's gonna hit.
I think we could probably sacrifice the South Side before we sacrifice the North Side.
Right? Like how did you come to that conclusion, Jeffrey?
Typical Sox fan, right? Typical.
We sacrificed ourselves here, man.
Should go ahead and release Eloy and release Yohan and release literally everybody on the team.
Yeah,
because they're all failures.
Yeah, speaking of the Sox, they are going to trade Garrett Crochet, according to Bob Nightingale.
Before
the deadline.
Good. You have to.
Let him. Well, because here's the thing. Here's the reason I'm fine with it, though.
What about Robert? You heard anything about
They're
him or
saying
no?
winter meetings for him because you're not going to get what you want at the deadline unless I mean Harper's out for Philly, but he doesn't play the outfield anymore, so it doesn't really help him. But like Crochet, sell him now
Why
before
would
his
you get
arm
rid of
blows up.
him?
His arm's going to blow up like so soon.
Him and
He's
Ben
never.
Joyce. Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Joyce, another one. Yeah, that guy's already been hurt, and he's on another crap team too with the Angels. But please sell him, let him go win a championship, and not have to worry about it. I guess they tried to extend him, didn't go the way that
Maybe that's
Sox.
why. Maybe that's
It's
why.
fine. It's fine. Let him
Well,
go
the
win.
first contract they absolutely. Oh my
Just the
God,
way
I
they
have a
made him
word. I
handle
can't.
the
Can't.
players.
Yeah, it was 5 for 88. I remember that deal, and I remember telling you, Jeffrey, that they absolutely pulled a fast one over on him, and he's going to be pissed about it very
Oh,
soon.
you're talking about Robert?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm talking about Crochet contract wise. No, Robert
Oh,
is
okay. He's on a rookie deal,
Robert.
Crochet, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say Crochet's on a rookie deal, but yeah, no, Robert, they did get a steal for him. That's why his trade value is gonna be terrific
Right.
whenever they do decide to trade him. Which once again, let him. I said before, you have to build around somebody, but what this means if they do trade Crochet, which they're going to, is that they're not going to be serious for another 2 years. Not like they were
Minimum.
going to be because they're horrible. I mean, the best case scenario is all these pitchers in Double A pan out, and that's about it.
Right, and that's your best case, and that's you're hoping
Right.
all 4 or 5 of those guys will pan out. And yeah, I mean,
Right.
you know what? Again, I'm a Cubs fan. If your whole team were to die in a plane crash tomorrow, I mean, I probably wouldn't care. No offense, but
You know what's
you
so
know,
funny is it took Rich hopping on the podcast for you to actually speak up about your little Cubby Blues.
well, the last couple
Cute
of
to
weeks
have a
we've
little
Oh.
been
teddy bear.
Jeff's
It's
been
cute to have
taking
a little
this.
teddy bear.
Jeff's been taking the skewer, you know what I mean? And he's been, poking me the
I've
last
been
few
waiting.
weeks, and
Hmm.
there's only so much abuse you can take before you just have to, you got to
I
let
mean,
him
I was
know.
gonna get the cattle prong going. I was gonna have to brand
Yeah,
them
we
soon.
know. No, there
Get
wasn't going to be
something
any
for you.
branding happening. There was something would have been done before the branding happened. Let's put it
I
that way.
did see
But
that the Cubs are tied for last place in the NL Central too.
look, getting back to your shitty ass team, you guys,
Right. It's fucking cock.
you guys should keep Crochet. All right, if you have Crochet and Thorpe going into next year as 1 and 2, that's a pretty solid 1-2. I think. If you get rid of Crochet and you move Robert, now you've got yeah,
Nothing.
Thorpe, who's going to
Nothing.
have maybe 100
One.
innings this year, and I mean you're gonna be worse next year than you were this year. Is what's going to happen. So
Oh yeah, I
I
already
mean,
expect it.
but you've got a decent enough farm system down there. You've got a decent amount of arms already. Keep
Yeah,
Crochet. I mean, you don't know how many of those arms are going to pan out. You might be able to move one
I
or two.
agree.
In Roberts, your King's ransom move, anyways, because of, like you said, with the contract. As far as center fielders go, he's in the top 3 or 4. Analytically, with all that, there aren't a lot. It's not a very good position to begin with. We've talked about that. You're going to be able to get a lot for him. I mean, maybe you can't move him by the deadline, but I mean, there to me, there should be teams that should be chomping at the bit trying to get that guy. The only issue
Yeah, but
with
they're
him
gonna
is his
undersell.
injuries.
They're gonna undersell him. That's the thing though too is they're not gonna give him like the Juan Soto type ransom. I mean, they might. For all we know, they might. But I mean, that's just a guess that they move Robert in the offseason, just based off of contract purposes and everything that a team would want him for a full year and not just you know a run. Where Crochet, I think he's got a year or two left on his contract, and also, I mean, his innings are going to be going bye bye very very soon because he's throwing more innings than he has in like
Yeah.
10 years, and
Uh,
he's
all
not
right,
that old.
boys. Jeffrey's only paid me for the first 40 minutes. I got to go head out and.
All right, enjoy it. Thanks for hopping on.
Richie, we'll see you next time.
All right, yeah. Just back onto the topic with, I want them to move both just because like it doesn't matter because if you trade Robert, who are you building around in the field? You know what I mean? Like you have nothing out there.
Yeah, but what is? I mean, I don't
You
even
keep him,
know.
and yeah, I mean you keep
How old
him,
is
and
he?
he's only like 26, I think.
Yeah, so he's still kind of young enough. You could keep him, but yeah, I mean, I just think, man, if you move him and you get a couple guys for him, you guys are already, I think, a top 10 farm system, and with
Yeah, that's what I
some of
think we
these.
looked it up the one time.
with some of these other farm systems going to be calling people up, and if you add to yours, you're going to be minimum top five with that deal. You could move into like the top three for all that. I mean, you guys could really do well with that. And then if you call a couple of those guys up, you know what? Who knows? Maybe the right move is probably to move Crochet too because he's a stud. And
Also, injury wise, I mean, he's already had the history of injuries. He's had two. He needed Tommy John already from us.
yeah,
So it's like, with the innings limit and everything coming down to it, it's like, yeah, that'd be great to keep him and build around those two players. I would love that. It's just not feasible for the way the White Sox built their team.
yeah,
Because best case scenario, like we said, is some of these pitchers. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. Let's have all the arms we can, but it's just they're not going to. So, got to do what we got to do here.
yeah.
Uh,
That is what they say, right?
yeah. But yeah, moving to the north side just briefly. I mean, it's been another just meh week, right? Like I
Yeah,
don't see they haven't
yeah.
really done a whole lot.
No, I'm still waiting for that big run for us to start winning some games here. I don't know if that's going to happen, but yeah, it's just been again just collectively, no one's really playing that well. We win a game, we lose a game. It's someone's got to light a fire under these guys' asses, and so we
Well,
can start playing like we were. I mean, there's no reason you go from a team that we were the first month and then have this big of a drop off. I mean, there's really no reason for it. It's just the guys aren't hitting. Bullpen hasn't been great. Starting pitching's still been solid enough where we should still be able to win some games. But if you're not scoring and the bullpen's giving up runs, your starting pitching has to give up pretty much nothing, and that's quite a short leash for them. So I don't know.
yeah, I mean, what you guys have to do. I mean, I think like we've talked about, you just need to go get somebody like that can like light a fire. But I think at this point, these guys are just not it. I mean, it was nice that Michael Bush had his final. He hit like 6 home runs in like what 1 week, and then all of a sudden, dude hasn't hit the anything in the past month and a half. It was nice to see he actually hit that home run yesterday. Um, I don't know. It's one of those weeks, a weird week, just for sports. I think it's just because we're in the lull. NBA, NHL is off, so now it's like all spotlights on the MLB. So now all we're going to hear about is how bad the Sox and Cubs are for like the next 2 to 3 months, and then
Yeah.
until the Bears kick off. But
Excited for them though. Hopefully,
should be as
hopefully he's
advertised
the
as we
guy. Yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah.